The Galactic Council had long awaited humanity's response to their invitation. Every new species that joined the interstellar community made a grand display upon arrival, sending fleets of diplomatic vessels, armed escorts, and representatives in vast numbers. It was a show of strength, an assurance that they were worthy of a place among the stars. But humanity's response was different. "We accept your invitation," the message had said. "One vessel will attend." One vessel? The announcement was met with confusion, then amusement. Some species assumed it was a mistake. Others believed it was arrogance. That HFY Dominion, a militaristic empire that prided itself on displays of power, openly mocked the decision. A single ship, one HFY ambassador had sneered. Perhaps they lacked the resources to send more. The council chambers erupted in laughter. Some species were more sympathetic, assuming humanity was cautious, unwilling to appear threatening. Either way, the matter was dismissed as unimportant. The humans would arrive, their lone ship would be noted, and the council would move on. Then the UNS Behemoth arrived. At first, the sensor readings didn't make sense. Most ships announced their approach with standard transmissions, requesting clearance and coordinates. The Behemoth did not. It simply appeared, as if emerging from the fabric of space itself. The first visual reports left even the most advanced species silent. The Behemoth did not resemble any known vessel. It was vast, larger than even the dreadnoughts of the Council's most powerful fleets. Its hull was made of an unknown material, dark, sleek, and seemingly shifting as it caught the light. No visible weapon ports, no markings beyond a simple insignia. United Nations of Earth. The Council's orbital station, designed to accommodate hundreds of ships at once, seemed almost small beside it. The communications channels lit up as ships across the system hailed the Behemoth, expecting a response. For nearly a full minute, there was nothing. No signal. No reply. Then a calm voice came through. "Apologies for the delay," the human envoy said. "We were ensuring we did not disrupt local gravitational stability." That single statement sent shockwaves through the Council. No ship should have the mass to affect gravity at this scale. No material should be dense enough to require calculations before entering a system. A few species dismissed it as exaggeration, until they checked their instruments. Gravity fluctuations, tiny, but present. Silence fell over the council chamber as representatives watched the Behemoth settle into orbit, motionless and imposing. Even the HFY Dominion, known for their boldness, hesitated. The laughter was gone. Across the system, ships maintained a respectful distance. No one dared approach. Even the automated security drones that normally scan new arrivals kept their distance, as if unsure whether the colossal vessel before them was truly a ship or something else entirely. For the first time in a long while, the Galactic Council did not know what to expect, and that made them uneasy. The moment the UNS Behemoth entered orbit, the entire summit changed. What was supposed to be a routine diplomatic gathering had become something else entirely, an unspoken test of what humanity truly was. Every ship in the system had their sensors trained on the Behemoth, trying to decipher its design. But no readings made sense. The hull was composed of an unknown alloy, resistant to deep scans. Energy readings fluctuated, as if the ship was adapting its power output based on observation. Some species speculated that it was a stealth vessel, while others whispered that it was something more. The silence did not last long. One by one, the diplomatic envoys from various species hailed the human vessel, seeking clarity. The response came after a pause. "This is the UNS Behemoth. We acknowledge all transmissions." The voice was calm, but there was something in its tone, something precise, almost engineered for diplomacy. The Council's lead technician attempted a more thorough scan of the vessel, only for his instruments to return fragmented data. He frowned. "Their systems are cycling faster than I can track," he muttered. "It's like they're watching us scan them." The room grew tense. The HFY Dominion's ambassador leaned forward, his expression skeptical. "One ship," he scoffed. "We expected a fleet. This is either arrogance or desperation." The human ambassador, a tall figure dressed in an understated but dignified uniform, smiled politely. "It is neither," he replied. "We simply did not require more." Murmurs spread through the chamber. The statement was delivered so casually, yet it held weight. The Sci-Fi representative narrowed his eyes. "Is that so?" The human nodded. "Had we needed a fleet, we would have brought one." He gestured toward the display screen showing the behemoth in orbit. "But we believed one would be sufficient." The Sci-Fi delegation exchanged glances. Among their kind, strength was everything. Numbers, firepower, intimidation. These were the tools of dominance. To send one ship was, in their view, a sign of weakness. But something about the humans' confidence made them hesitate. On the summit's main display, the behemoth remained motionless. Other ships maintained a wide berth around it, as if instinctively avoiding proximity. Even automated security drones, which routinely scanned every new vessel, seemed to struggle. Their systems looped the same error message. Unknown parameters detected. Insufficient data. The lead analyst of the Galactic Council furrowed his brow. "That ship. It doesn't behave like a warship, a freighter, or a diplomatic craft. It doesn't match any classification." A scientist from the Vellery, a species known for their technological prowess, leaned in. "That's because it isn't following any known design principles. Look at the hull geometry. No exposed weapon placements, no heat signatures where they should be. It's like," he hesitated, choosing his words carefully, "like it was built without limitations." The council members absorbed the statement in silence. The behemoth was impossible, a ship that should not exist. And yet it did. And that realization left everyone unsettled. The Galactic Council chamber was no longer filled with the quiet confidence of rulers and diplomats. Instead, an uneasy tension spread through the room as representatives from every species studied the image of the UNS behemoth on the massive display. The ship remained motionless in orbit, its dark hull absorbing the faint light of the system's twin suns. The human delegation stood calm, composed. Their ambassador, Nathaniel Pierce, carried an air of quiet authority. He did not seem concerned by the growing unease in the chamber. The Sci-Fi Dominion's ambassador, Voriktal, was the first to break the silence. "Tell me, Ambassador Pierce," he said, voice thick with skepticism, "do humans consider it an insult to show strength? Because I see no fleet, no escorts, just a single ship." Pierce remained expressionless. "We did not come here to display strength." Vorik's mandibles clicked in irritation. "Then why bring that?" He gestured at the screen, where the behemoth loomed over the council's orbital station like a silent sentinel. "If this is diplomacy, then why does your vessel radiate the presence of something built for war?" The human's expression did not change. "Because war is a language we have learned well," he said evenly, "and we understand it enough to know when it is unnecessary." A murmur passed through the council chamber. Some species exchanged glances, uncertain whether they had just heard a warning or a reassurance. And Ithari diplomat, one of the older and more measured members of the council, leaned forward. "Humanity is new to our alliance," she said carefully. "Yet you carry yourselves as if you have already determined the nature of our politics." She studied Pierce. "You do not fear us. Why?" Pierce met her gaze without hesitation. "Because fear is a reaction to the unknown," he said. "And we have known conflict, survival, and the struggle for existence for longer than recorded history. This council represents order, stability. That is not something to fear. It is something to respect." The statement carried weight, but it did not satisfy everyone. A member of the Zarel consortium, a race of traitors and opportunists, leaned back with narrowed eyes. "You say you respect us," he mused, "yet your ship disrupts our station's gravitational stability, resists our scans, and causes unease without firing a single weapon." He paused. "What would happen, I wonder, if a less Welcoming species decided to test you. Pierce's expression remained unchanged, but something about his posture shifted slightly. I would advise against it. The Zyrel delegate laughed. A warning. Pierce tilted his head slightly. A truth. For the first time since the behemoth arrived, silence filled the chamber once more. The statement had been spoken without threat, without challenge. Yet everyone felt its weight. The Etheri diplomat exhaled slowly. "You did not bring many ships," she said at last, "because you believed one would be enough." Pierce nodded. Correct. There was no arrogance in his tone, no boast, just certainty. And that, more than anything, unsettled them all. For all the tension in the Galactic Council chamber, the summit continued. Official discussions moved forward, with various species debating trade agreements, territorial disputes, and technological exchanges. But despite the formalities, no one could ignore the UNS behemoth hanging silently in orbit. The Cypher Dominion, however, saw it differently. To the Typhar, strength was everything. Power was demonstrated through numbers, overwhelming firepower, and tactical superiority. The lone ship, no matter how advanced, was still just one ship, and that meant it could be tested. Deep in the shadows of the system's asteroid belt, a Cypher battle group remained hidden. Cloaked under advanced stealth technology, their ships monitored the behemoth, analyzing its design, scanning for weaknesses. They had strict orders: do not engage, observe only. But some commanders did not believe in patience. Captain Drex, an ambitious Typhar officer eager to prove himself, saw the behemoth's presence as an insult. The humans had arrived without escort, without a show of force, as if they did not consider the Dominion a threat. It was unacceptable. And so, he made a choice. "Prepare targeting systems," he ordered. His crew hesitated. "This is a warning shot only," Drex growled. "We will disable their engines, show them their place." No one questioned him further. A moment later, a concentrated energy burst lanced through space, streaking toward the behemoth at near-light speed. It was a calculated attack, one designed to cripple, not destroy. But the instant it reached its target, something impossible happened. The energy vanished. Not dispersed, not deflected, simply absorbed. The space around the behemoth shimmered for the briefest moment, as if reality itself had shifted to accommodate the attack. Then, silence. On Drex's bridge, confusion spread like wildfire. His sensors showed nothing. No damage, no shield activation, no energy feedback. It was as if the shot had never been fired. Before he could process what had happened, his console flickered. A message appeared, transmitted directly to his ship. No encryption, no introduction, just a simple line of text. "We could have fired. We did not. Leave." Drex's mandibles tightened. This was not the response of prey. It was something else, something far worse. And then the behemoth moved. It was not a slow repositioning, not the sluggish drift of a massive warship adjusting course. It was instantaneous. One moment it was stationary. The next it had turned directly toward Drex's fleet, as if space itself had folded to accommodate its movement. For the first time in his career, Drex felt uncertainty. Then, across his fleet, ships began shutting down. Not from weapons, not from any visible attack. Systems simply ceased to function. Engines flickered offline. Targeting arrays became static. Communications fell silent. One by one, his ships became adrift. Panic spread among his crew. "We've lost control," one officer shouted. "We can't move." Another message appeared. "Final warning. Leave now." Drex did not hesitate. "Retreat," he ordered, voice tight. His fleet limped away, powerless to fight, powerless even to understand what had happened. And above them, the behemoth remained, silent, watching, waiting. Word of the incident spread quickly. The Cypher Dominion, once so confident in their power, had withdrawn without a fight. Their fleet had fired the first shot, and the U.S. behemoth had responded without a single weapon. The Galactic Council chamber was filled with uneasy whispers. Some species speculated on what had happened. Others demanded answers. But there was one undeniable truth. Humanity had demonstrated something far beyond what any species had expected. Yet in the human delegation, there was no sign of triumph. Ambassador Pierce remained composed, responding to inquiries with patience. When asked directly about the behemoth's actions, he simply said, "We responded proportionally." The Typhar, however, did not see it that way. Ambassador Vorik stood, his voice sharp. "A deception," he accused. "A trick of technology, nothing more. You did not fire because you knew you could not win." Pierce regarded him with measured calm. "We did not fire because it was unnecessary." Vorik's mandibles twitched. "Then you will not object if we conduct further tests." The chamber grew tense. Other species looked to the humans, wondering how they would respond to the obvious challenge. Pierce exhaled slowly. "We would advise against it," he said. The statement was not aggressive. It was not a threat. Yet it silenced the room. The behemoth, still hovering in orbit, had not moved since the encounter. It remained still, as if waiting. The Sci-Fi Dominion, unwilling to accept what had happened, sent another fleet, not to attack, but to analyze. Their ships surrounded the behemoth at a distance, keeping weapons powered but not locked. Scanners activated in full, pushing beyond the usual diplomatic protocols. They studied energy fluctuations, heat signatures, gravitational shifts. Then, for the first time since its arrival, the behemoth moved. It was subtle at first, a slight change in orientation, a repositioning, like a predator acknowledging its observers. Then, without warning, it vanished. Gasps rippled through the council chamber as the display flickered. The behemoth had not accelerated, had not engaged any known form of faster-than-light travel. It had simply disappeared, as if space itself had erased it from existence. On board the Sci-Fi vessels, alarms blared. Their sensors failed to locate the behemoth. No ship that size should be able to disappear without a trace. The fleet scrambled to adjust, to reposition, to prepare. And then the behemoth reappeared. It was no longer in front of them. It was behind them. Every ship in the Sci-Fi fleet detected the shift at the same moment. Their targeting systems flickered. Engines faltered for a fraction of a second. A presence, not a transmission, not a voice, but something deeper, seemed to press into their systems. Then, a single message appeared across their displays. "You are standing too close." Panic took hold. The Sci-Fi fleet did not need another warning. They withdrew immediately, pulling back to a safe distance. The behemoth, once again, remained still. It had not fired. It had not attacked. It had simply demonstrated. In the council chamber, no one spoke. For the first time in known history, the Sci-Fi Dominion had retreated without a battle, and humanity had not even raised its weapons. The tension in the Galactic Council chamber was unlike anything in its long history. The Sci-Fi Dominion, known for their military aggression and refusal to back down, had retreated twice. And yet, the U.S. behemoth had not fired a single shot. Every species in attendance now had a question lingering at the edge of their thoughts, one that no one dared ask outright. What would have happened if the behemoth had actually attacked? The silence in the chamber was broken by the Ithuri diplomat, her voice carefully measured. "Ambassador Pierce," she said, "I believe the Council deserves clarification. Your ship has demonstrated capabilities beyond our understanding. Yet you have not used force. Why?" Pierce folded his hands on the table, calm as ever. "Because force is the last resort of the unprepared," he said. "We prefer other solutions." The Villari scientist, still processing the behemoth's impossible movements, spoke next. "Your ship defies known physics," he admitted. "Its mass alone should prevent such maneuvers. Your ability to disrupt targeting systems and disable ships, these are technologies far beyond our own." He hesitated before continuing. "Ambassador, How advanced is human technology? A weight settled over the room. Pierce's expression did not change, but when he spoke, his words carried an undeniable certainty. Advanced enough. The answer was vague. Too vague. Yet it spoke volumes. The Sci-Fi ambassador, Vorik clenched his fists. His species had ruled through intimidation for generations. They had always known where they stood in the hierarchy of power. But now, for the first time, they were uncertain. You claim to seek peace, Vorik said slowly, but you wield something unnatural. His voice lowered. Why did you build such a ship? Pierce met his gaze without hesitation. Because we needed to. The answer was unsettling in its simplicity. It carried no arrogance, no challenge, just a truth. The Ithari diplomat exhaled. What could require such a vessel? Pierce hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. And in that moment, the council understood. Humanity had not built the behemoth to intimidate them. It had not been made for political maneuvering, nor for displays of power. It had been made for something else. Something worse. The Zyrel delegate, ever the opportunist, leaned forward. What is humanity preparing for? He asked, his voice quieter than before. Pierce did not answer immediately. He glanced at the display where the behemoth still hovered in orbit, silent and watching. Then he looked back at the gathered representatives. We have a saying, he said finally. Hope for peace. Prepare for war. The words hung in the air. No one spoke, because the meaning was clear. Humanity was not here to fight, but they had built a ship that could. And the terrifying part was that no one in the room believed they had built it for them. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Every species present was processing the same thought. The UNS behemoth was not a show of strength. It was a preparation. For what? No one knew, but the implications were clear. The Sci-Fi ambassador, Vorik broke the silence first. His voice was slower now, more controlled. You speak in careful words, Ambassador Pierce, he said, but I believe we all understand what you are not saying. Pierce remained composed. And what do you believe I am not saying, Ambassador? Vorik leaned forward slightly. That humanity is afraid of something. A ripple of tension moved through the chamber. It was an audacious statement, but no one dismissed it. The way the humans carried themselves, the way they had sent only one ship, a ship beyond the understanding of the galaxy, suggested a reality few wanted to face. Pierce did not react immediately. He let the weight of the words settle. Then, slowly, he said, Caution is not fear. It was a diplomatic response, but it did not erase the unease in the room. The Velari scientist, who had been silently studying every interaction, finally spoke. You built the behemoth because you expect to use it, he said carefully. Not against us, but against something else. Pierce did not confirm or deny it. The Ithari diplomat exhaled. If there is something out there, something you fear enough to build this ship, why not tell us? Pierce's expression did not change, but for the first time, there was something else in his gaze, something almost regretful. Because you are not ready to know. The words struck like a hammer. The council chamber erupted into murmurs. Some species felt insulted. Others felt fear creeping into their minds. The idea that humanity knew something they did not was unsettling in ways no one wanted to acknowledge. The Zyrel delegate, ever the opportunist, narrowed his eyes. That sounds more like an excuse than an explanation, he challenged. Pierce met his gaze without hesitation. Then tell me, counselor, he said, if I stood here and spoke of things that would keep you awake at night, things that would make your fleets feel like paper and your defenses like dust, what would you do? The Zyrel delegate hesitated. Pierce continued. Would you panic? Would you abandon your way of life? Would you scramble for answers that would not help you? He shook his head. No, this galaxy functions because of stability, and stability is built on certainty. He let the words sink in before finishing. We do not lie, but sometimes the truth must wait. The room fell silent once more. The Ithari diplomat, ever the wisest among them, finally spoke. Her voice was quiet but firm. "Then tell me one thing, Ambassador," she said. "Are we in danger?" Pierce considered his answer carefully. Then finally he said, "Not today." The words offered no comfort, because they all understood what was left unsaid. Not today, but someday. And when that day came, humanity would be ready. The words, "not today," echoed in the minds of every representative in the Galactic Council chamber. No one spoke, no one dared, because everyone understood what it meant. Humanity was not their enemy, but something else might be, something that had forced them to build the UNS Behemoth. And whatever it was not here. Yet, the Sci-Fi ambassador, Voriktal, studied Pierce carefully. His species had always believed power was measured in fleets, in the number of warships and the strength of their weapons. But humanity had just demonstrated something beyond power. "Tell me, Ambassador," Vorik said at last, his voice quieter than before. "If war came to us, to all of us, would humanity stand alone?" The question was direct. Pierce exhaled slowly. "No," he said simply. "We would not." The council representatives exchanged glances. The answer carried a weight far greater than a promise of alliance. It was a warning. Humanity had prepared for something the rest of the galaxy did not yet understand. And when the time came, when whatever they feared finally arrived, humanity would not wait for permission. They would act. The Villari scientist, still caught in deep thought, leaned forward. "If we are to be allies, we must understand. Not today, perhaps, but soon." Pierce gave him a measured look. "Then listen carefully," he said. The entire chamber fell silent again. "Humanity does not seek war," Pierce continued. "We do not desire conquest. But we have learned, through history and hardship, that peace is only as strong as those willing to defend it." He glanced at the display where the behemoth remained, motionless in orbit. "This ship was not built to conquer," he said. "It was built to endure, to ensure that when the storm comes, we do not fall." His gaze swept across the room. "If that day comes, we will stand. And if you choose to stand with us, we will stand together." Silence followed. The Ithari diplomat, always the voice of wisdom, nodded slowly. "Then let us hope that day is far away." Pierce offered a small, unreadable smile. "Hope for peace," he said, repeating the human saying. "Prepare for war." The council adjourned soon after. There were no formal agreements, no signed treaties, but something far more important had been established that day. A silent promise. As the delegates left the chamber, some still murmuring to themselves, the Sci-Fi ambassador lingered. Voriktal glanced one last time at Pierce before speaking. "We were wrong about you," he admitted. Pierce gave him a small nod. "Many are." Vorik's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "For your sake, Ambassador, I hope whatever you fear never comes." Pierce's expression did not change, but in his eyes there was something old, something that had seen too much. "So do we," he said. Outside the station, the UNS Behemoth remained, silent and watching. It had come alone, but if the worst happened, humanity never would be.